Donald Trump and Prime Minister Mark Carney just met for the second time ever in this current relationship, and they held a press conference where they revealed some interesting information. I'm going to show you all of the most important parts right now, covering things like the shift of their relationship, seemingly improving by the minute, getting quite chummy, as well as the question of why Canadians are boycotting the US and if they even are. We'll also talk about the shockingly rational take about why Canada and the US are currently at odds, and the teasing of some changes that are going to be made in the not too distant future. And finally, we'll talk about Canada's response to Trump's new Gaza-Israel peace proposals. The press conference started out with what I would call a love fest, both of the leaders expressing their praise and their admiration for the other.
He's an extremely popular prime minister, and I'm very honored to do it because I liked him. Right from the beginning, I've liked him, and we've had a good relationship. And Mark, it's an honor to have you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. If I may, you kindly hosted me and some of my colleagues a few months ago, and I said at the time, you are a transformative president. And since then, the transformation in the economy, unprecedented commitments of NATO partners to defense spending, peace from India, Pakistan through to Azerbaijan, Armenia, disabling Iran as a force of terror.
Now, this is a continuation and an expansion of the tone that was struck between the two leaders in their first meeting a few months ago. Now, a lot of people who supported Carney in his election said, well, Carney was actually doing a lot of this complimenting in a tongue-in-cheek way, saying that he didn't actually mean what he was saying. But Carney goes back to this same tone here, and I, in my personal opinion, think that that's reading a little bit too much into it. I think that there is a positive relationship here between the two leaders. Trump goes on later to talk even more about how much he likes Carney and how good of a leader he thinks he is, and he jokes around with him, and all of the Canadian delegates who are there are in on that joke, enjoying their time there, at least seemingly.
I think he's a great prime minister. I mean, he could represent me anytime. I will tell you, I'm not saying that. No, he is a very strong, very good leader. He's a nice man, but he can be nasty. He can be very nasty, maybe as nasty as anybody.
How?
I think Canada, let me put it this way, I can tell you this because I deal with lots of leaders all over the world. He is a world-class leader. He's a man that knows what he wants, and I'm not surprised to see that he won the election and won it substantially, and I would think he's more popular now. He's a good man. He does a great job, and he's a tough negotiator.
What's holding things up? If he's a great man and you want to do a deal with Canada, why aren't you?
Because I want to be a great man, too. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much.
So everyone is all smiles. What do you think of this? Is it something where they're just putting this on in order to catch more flies with honey than vinegar? Or is this a situation where this is a genuine growing of the relationship between the leaders and their closest political allies? To me, this seems genuine, but that speaks nothing of the relationship between Canadian citizens and American citizens and the views of the opposing countries. Now, this is a relationship where a lot of that trust was fractured in many people's eyes, first coming from the comments from Trump about the 51st state, as well as from the Mark Carney campaign, who really did drum up that kind of concern around these 51st state comments as a way to help with the election. This was one of the main pillars. And they talked about this fractured relationship, making light of it, saying that we still love both of each other's countries. But then there was a question about Canadian tourism and the boycotts of U.S. products as well as U.S. travel amongst Canadians.
You know, we have natural conflict. We also have mutual love. You know, we have great love for each other. I love this. I love Canada, the people of Canada. And Mark feels the same way about here.
What do you say to Canadians that don't want to go to the U.S. now because of your 51st state talk, because of the trade war, the tariffs, and the fear of also being detained at the border?
And Americans don't want to buy cars that are made in Canada. You know, I mean, we have the same conflict. So there isn't. It's something that will get worked out. There's still great love between the two countries, but you know, American people want product here.
So he sort of shifts the question away from why do Canadians feel this way about Americans and shifts it more to an economic argument, something that we are about to get to because there was a lot said on that as well. But Trump hints here that he seems to be about to give Canadians a reason to fall back in love with America.
You say Mr. Carney's going to be leaving Washington happy. What's Canada giving you?
Well, you'll find out, but I think the people of Canada, they will love us again. Most of them still do. If you say only 25%, I assume a lot of them, I think they love us.
So he says we'll have reason to love America again, and says, well, actually, most Canadians are still feeling okay with it, which I would think is probably more true than not. It certainly seems like there's been a shifting in terms of people's attention since the election. It seems like it's less top of mind for a lot of Canadians, at least. But then we get into the meat of this, the trade and economic relationship here, and it's a little bit more of a nuanced and rational conversation than you might expect. Here's Trump talking about why exactly Canada and America are at odds and saying, well, we can compete, but that doesn't mean we have to have a bad relationship.
The problem we have is that they want a car company and I want a car company, meaning the U.S. wants a car company. And they want steel and we want steel. You know, so in other countries, they're very far away and there's no problem. You can compete and you can do. We don't like to compete because we sort of hurt each other when we compete. And so we have a natural conflict. It's a natural business conflict, nothing wrong with it. And I think we've come a long way over the last few months, actually, in terms of that relationship.
We see President Trump here holding two things sort of at odds. First, in one hand, is his America First policy, and second is some other ideas that it seems like he's starting to think about, which I'll get into in a second. We know that Trump campaigned on this America First message, saying, well, we should be more concerned about the what's going on in America and the prosperity of America and American citizens, and that could mean making our trade relationships with other countries less favorable so that we draw back investment and draw back manufacturing into the States, producing more jobs, or at least that was the idea. But now it seems that that stance has softened, and you can't tell if this is something that Mark Carney has made the argument to with Trump, or if somebody else is in his ear about this, saying this idea of, okay, well, this doesn't actually apply to America and Canada. It can apply for countries that are far apart, but it doesn't apply when your borders are touching, or some other logic like that, saying that, okay, we're actually hurting each other more than we're helping any individual country by being more protectionist about these policies. Now, the reality of that, I think that can be debated, but it certainly is more along the lines of this global free trade idea rather than what it seems like most of Trump's economic policies are. And it gets into this larger conversation about partnerships and alliances versus making sure that you are independently able to keep your economy going and keep your national security, and especially national security important sectors, going. This applies to a whole host of different sectors, but they talk specifically about steel here, something that every major superpower has been focusing on heavily, saying, hey, we need to be able to build ourselves without relying on other steel products from other countries, because if a relationship sours, well, then that could leave us in a pretty rough position.
And we've made some compromise even on steel. But, you know, we have the same basic authority and the same this could be also a little bit of a conflict with other countries all over the world on steel, because we want to make our own steel. We don't want to bring steel in for the most part, but we will bring it in, and we do bring it in. We continue to bring it in from Canada, but there is a tariff to pay. And I think that would be a normal thing to say.
I find this particularly interesting. Like, what's the best idea for Canada as a country? What's the best idea for America as a country? If you're being realistic here, is this something where we should lean more into free trade and rely on each other more often? Or like a lot of what Carney campaigned on, saying, well, we need to diversify and become more sovereign. So should we be okay with these kinds of tariffs and more focus on our own national industrial capacity? Then we get into an area where Canada and America have been at odds, and very recently, just in the past few weeks, specifically on the fentanyl and border issue, which was the sort of starting cause for all of these tariffs, at least if you believe what Trump was saying at that time, as well as the conflict in the Middle East.
The fentanyl crisis over with Canada, with the Canadian border?
Is what?
The fentanyl crisis.
Fentanyl.
No, it's not over. I think it's never going to be over, frankly. But Canada's worked hard hard, and they've done a much better job than in the past. We have very few people coming in through our southern border, too. We've worked with Canada and we've worked with Mexico, so we've made it a lot better.
Look, any amount is too much. So we've gotten it down. It's down substantially. It's less than 1%, but it's still too much. It's too much at home in Canada.
A lot of people.
Yeah, we got to
On
stand
Russia,
for it.
Mr.
They touch on this issue briefly, but very nonchalantly. To me, it seems like maybe this was never really a big issue in Trump's mind or Carney's mind. They pledged to hire 1,000 new Canadian Border Service agents, which they're hiring at a far slower pace, saying that, well, there's not a lot of supply of people who are applying to get this type of job, and they're despite this high demand for more agents. There's been a lot of reporting about labs and a lot of fentanyl activity going on in Canada, to which there hasn't been a huge response or a big change. It just has been less in the news as of late. So make of that what you will. And finally, the topic about Trump's peace plans for the Middle East. Now, this is an area that we were very recently at odds with the U.S. About, with Carney coming out and recognizing the state of Palestine alongside many other European nations simultaneously. Trump had a big issue with this, saying that that was rewarding of terrorism was the argument that was being made. Now it seems they're back in line, saying that Canada is entirely supportive of the Trump administration's views and efforts.
And I think there's a possibility that we could have peace in the Middle East. It's something even beyond the Gaza situation. We want a release of the hostages immediately, etc. And so our team is over there now. Another team just left, and other countries, literally every country in the world has supported the plan.
Yep.
I don't think there's anybody that hasn't, actually, not that I've seen. But
on this solemn day of commemoration of the horrific attacks of October 7th, for the first time in decades, hundreds of years, thousands of years, this prospect of peace that you've made possible, Canada stands foursquare behind those efforts, and we'll do whatever we can to support them. Yeah.
thank you very much.
Across the board, everyone stands united in calling for an end to the death and end to the suffering. And to the extent that this plan could potentially do that, well, I think that there will be many people who support it. But critics will simultaneously say that this does nothing to reprimand Israel for the countless human rights abuses, at least as defined by the International Criminal Court. But for now, Canada stands behind these efforts, as said by Mark Carney, and we'll see how this situation plays out. But I'm curious what you make of this entire meeting. What were you surprised by? What have I missed here? What did I get right and what did I get wrong entirely? Let me know in the comments and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. It helps out the channel dramatically. And there have been 2 new hour-plus long interviews posted on the Russ Matthews membership page. That's the first link in the description. One with Mark Mitchell and one with Millennial Moron. Great conversations. You can check those out there. But with all that said, thanks so much for watching, everybody. I really hope this video helped you out at least a little bit, and I'll see you next time.